Hi, I'm Judi Vitale, and I'm here to talk a little bit about some things that are going on this week of August 8th, 2011. And today, we have seen the stock market in the United States go down more than 600 points after having gone down more than 400 points last week. This is obviously something that we have been hinting at. This is certainly one of the possibilities that was in most astrologers' minds when we saw what was happening as Mars came into Cancer last week to trigger off the planets Pluto and Uranus specifically on the Cardinal axis, which is the point that affects the entire world. This is a global situation. It isn't just isolated in the United States, but because I live in the United States, that's where I see everything from. So if I speak a little bit too much about that and you're from another country, I do apologize. But you know, it's a very upsetting day here. It's even more upsetting. I think if you remember last week we talked about England and Spain being involved in the ingress of Mars into Cancer. Well, we had the riots in England, and Spain is fighting with insolvency, and the Central Bank of Europe is trying to rescue Spain and Italy. And both are talking about austerity measures in their government, and they're going back and forth. And doesn't this all sound familiar to those of us who are in the United States watching what's gone on here about the topic of spending versus revenue? Well, it doesn't take a genius to see that our old structures are deteriorating, and it can be very unsettling. I don't want this to become something that everybody says, oh my God, what's going to happen next? But tomorrow is going to be pivotal because we have the planet Mars coming into a square, an exact square with Uranus at about 12:30 tomorrow afternoon Eastern Time. So that certainly would be a time when you would want to be careful. But the problem is with Uranus, there's nothing that we can do to prepare for it except to prepare for the unexpected. Maybe, perhaps, it will be an upswing when people see that the stocks are much cheaper, they buy into the market. That might be something. And, you know, for those of you who say the market, who cares? Well, you know, if we don't have a stock market, we don't have an economy. If we don't have an economy, we don't have a food supply, basically, when you go down the food chain enough to discuss, you know, what really happens when you don't have an economy. Are we going to get to that point? I don't think so. Gosh, I hope not. But, you know, right now, this is some serious stuff that's going on. And tomorrow when we have Mars square Uranus, we're not only going to have things that are economic in their nature going off, they're also possibly, Mars and Uranus often signals something like seismic events. Now, there will be those of you who will say, oh, well, Mars squares Uranus all the time. Well, Uranus isn't on the Aries axis all the time. The last time that Uranus was on the Aries axis was back in 88 and 89, 1988 and 1989. And that was quite some time ago when Uranus was in Capricorn. And, you know, there were several things going on in the economy in those times as well. It was sort of a time when we were between the crash of '87 and then the beginnings of the bubble for the tech stocks and the internet bubble. What I'm really hoping for in the next several months is some other kind of new life or new industry to come into civilization so that we can begin to tap the earth and tap, you know, the energy in order to get some other kind of economic wheels in motion. What will they be? I have no idea. Maybe something to do with energy generation, given that, you know, Uranus is in Aries and it's about motion and engines, and you know, I would almost say something like steam engines, but it, you know, a lot of electricity is produced by producing steam. So, you know, whether it's solar or some other kind of energy that we don't know about yet that someone's developing, you know, let's hope that it's something positive. If we put our intentions behind that, and you know, those of us who are able to think about creating such things, maybe we should start to think about it. It's certainly time for all of us to take a look at ourselves inside our hearts and ask ourselves, what would happen if everything that I own were to suddenly disappear? So with that, I will just encourage you to hold on to your spirituality and your knowledge that no matter what happens, it's the way that it's supposed to be. And not to be fatalistic about it, not to say that, you know, it has to be catastrophic, but there's always something to learn from everything that happens to us. So when we lose something, we gain something else. Maybe we lose a little bit of money, but we gain the knowledge that that isn't the most important thing in life. Let's focus more on our relationships. Try to avoid being volatile for the next few days. If you feel like your feelings are hurt, step away from the situation. Process it. Get some physical exercise. Just find some other ways to vent your excess energy rather than to simply spout off at people about how you feel like the whole world has wronged you your entire life. Right now, people are not going to have patience for it. There are possibilities of lots and lots of things happening that are not so nice. You know, witness what's going on in England. Witness what happened in Milwaukee over the weekend. Or there just like spontaneous riots erupting. And, you know, these things are part of a cycle. And, you know, we're in a cycle right now which is really as important as many astrologers, including myself, are trying to tell people. You know, really be good with yourself and with the people around you, and do your best to keep people as calm as possible. And that's what I'm trying to do here, trying to like let you know that, you know, everything isn't going to be perfect, and it probably isn't going to go back to the way that it was before. But at the same time, we don't have to panic, we don't have to go crazy, we don't have to lose our minds or jump out of windows like they did in the 1920s when the stock market crashed. And I didn't just say the stock market's going to crash, I just said that when there are financial difficulties, people go to extremes. Yeah, so it's the degree to which you can say, you know, you're really in touch with who you are as a person and spiritually, that you can be sure that you're going to be fine no matter what happens. So, handle Mars and Uranus with care, be careful around machinery. Watch out for your body, because, you know, when Mars and Uranus are agitating at one another, we get very irritated, and we get impulsive, and we also get to the point where, like, we forget that our minds are in a body, and we bump ourselves, and, you know, maybe have little scrapes with the car and things like that. So just be very careful, and let's hope that we see a little less violence in the world. Certainly the matter in Afghanistan where the chopper was shot down with the Navy SEALs on it was not, you know, sad as it was not something that I'm surprised to hear during this time, because this whole week, as I've tried to emphasize on the site, is definitely a big one. So keep in touch with your daily horoscopes, look at your weeklies, look at your monthlies, and you'll see the various pictures that I'm trying to put together for you. And if you have any questions or concerns, please address them to me at Judi, Judi, @readthestars.com.